What's up, games? Friendly neighborhood Ill Brown.
What's up with your boy Trox?
Yo, and this is your girl Candy.
And you are live with us in another installment of the Beat the Block podcast powered by the good folks at BeatStars. Shout out to the people that cash our checks. We love y'all. Stay Rona free. Anyway, this episode is a very special episode, man. One of hip hop's finest is in the virtual building because we are quarantined. I mean, he's produced, man, Thieves in the Night, No Church in the Wild. He's got placements with Ye, Jay-Z, Sia, Big man. Enough of all that. We be here all day just running off the heat. Everybody, warm welcome for 88 Keys. What's good, family?
Hey, what's up, man? Good to be here. Coming to you live from Jersey City, New Jersey.
Word up.
Yep. Just over here with two of my daughters and a friend and her son who's crashing for a minute over here. And yeah.
No doubt, man. As long as everybody's staying safe, that's the place to be.
Yes, indeed.
Without further ado, let's get cracking. I don't know. I'm anxious, man. I'm a huge fan, so I think I can say the same for everybody else. So we kind of anxious, man. Let's get it cracking.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Cracking for the bloods that's listening.
Man, thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate that. So, without further ado, let's get it going. Let's get to the meat. You started your music career with a guy named John Carerro. Could you explain to us who that is?
So John Carerro is he's the late great John Carerro. I actually had given him the nickname Crates Carerro. In the early 90s, John Carerro, who was the son of Amy Carerro and Red Carerro. Amy and Red, they were jazz record brokers. They lived in Malvern, New York, which is on Long Island. And they sold, as their profession, they sold all jazz records. And this was like hard bebop jazz. No, I shouldn't say bebop jazz, but it was like classical jazz music, Woody Shaw type stuff or whatever, Dizzy Gillespie and all that stuff. And I was looking for an album by Roy Ayers Ubiquity at the time. I was 14 years old, and I heard, I heard Everybody Loves the Sunshine on the radio. So in New York, we had a radio station called Kiss FM, 98.7 Kiss. And for decades, they've been around. And on Sundays, starting at 8 o'clock p.m., they had a show, a block called Cool Kiss Classics. So I heard Everybody Loves the Sunshine. And, I knew nothing about sampling or where, I was listening to hip hop at the time, but I didn't know anything about sampling because the internet didn't exist back then, pretty much for the most part. So it wasn't like I could just like Google or YouTube or Wikipedia like the information or anything like that. Like
you really had to get your fingers dirty.
Yes, like you had to ask a lot of questions. You had to physically, move from point A to point B to find answers back then. Imagine that. So I called the radio. So when I heard Everybody Loves the Sunshine, I thought it was like a weird remix of Brand Nubians already remixed Wake Up. The SD50s, the Stimulated Dummies. They did a remix of the album version of Wake Up for Brand Nubians, which I love the song. And then that song actually became the video version of for the single. So I heard that, and they sampled Everybody Loves the Sunshine, but again, I didn't know what a sample was. So I heard the original on the radio, and I thought it was like a weird remix that I was drawn to. So I called the radio station and miraculously got through on my first call, which was kind of unheard of back then. And yeah, so then I asked them about the record and about the song. They told me which record it was, and then they said, good luck finding it. So I went to a record store that was. So I lived in West Hempstead at the time. West Hempstead, Long Island is a town, predominantly white, I suppose, whatever. And then the neighboring town was Hempstead, which was predominantly hood, people of color. And they had a record store. I feel like the record store was called Hot Wax. I forget exactly. So I went there, and I asked them about the record. They said they did carry old records, like meaning from the 60s, 70s and 80s in the store, but the record store was more commonly known for their current releases. So I went to the back of the store, didn't find it, and then I don't know if he was the owner of the store or just an employee, but he pointed me to he if I had to guess, he had to have been the owner of the store, because why would they have Red and Amy's personal number or whatever? So he pointed me to them. He said, you could try them. I went over to their house one afternoon, and they told me that their son might have it because he also collected records. And his the records he collected were rock, soul, and jazz, but like in all subgenres of all of those genres. So, and by the way, so Red and Amy, they lived in a 2-floor house with a finished basement and a two-car garage and everything. Literally every square inch of their home was filled with jazz records, like bathroom included. They had crates of records in their bathroom. Their garage is floor to ceiling, two-car garage, floor to ceiling records, and like just rows and rows of records. I believe they had an attic as well, filled with records, basement filled with records. And they did they used Goldmine to sell records or whatever. So they directed me to their son, and they called him over. I spoke to him over the phone, and he said, he told me he would be there like the following day with the record, that he had it, and I was excited. So I went over after school the following day, and I met him, and I was kind of taken aback because he literally looked like Hell's Angels, like long red ponytail, like the quintessential biker. Like if you could close your eyes and imagine what a Hell's Angel biker would look like, you would have him, but with like reddish brown hair. He had the long goatee, the the denim jacket, the sleeveless denim vest,
Hella
the
tattoos
white,
on his arms.
and he had a Harley.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he was like, I don't know why, I was just very intimidated by him and stuff. So he sold the record to me, and then and I feel like, I don't know if it was the first time I met him, like the first conversation, or if it was the second, but I somewhat vividly recall him selling me a record. It had to have been the second time I bought a record from him. So he sold a record to me, and he handed it to me, but before he released it, he like held on to it, and he was asking like, why was I so interested in like records at I was a kid, I was 14 years old, and I just kind of shrugged. I was like, I don't know, like I like the way they sound. And I didn't really have much to say. And, again, because I didn't know what sampling was, and I didn't realize hip hop or rap music was sampling, I just really started to dig old music. And I myself didn't even really know why, beyond the fact that it just sounds good to me. I couldn't even really explain it further than that. So, yeah, so John eventually, the late great John Carerro, Craze Carerro, became infamous for just for selling, records to like the hip hop producers elite at the time. Like, And it's funny because I felt like it all kind of happened overnight, and I witnessed it, just being around him, because eventually I would go on to work for him. I started cleaning his records. Like he taught me how to clean records and stuff like that, and how to take the price stickers off with a lighter and
with a
the
lighter
price tags on the records. Yeah.
How would you do that?
So you take the record. See, I'm dropping the gem already.
Hey,
so
man.
you take you take the record out, the vinyl record out. You set it aside, and then you take a lighter, and then you hold the record maybe about an inch above the lighter, but where the sticker is. So what winds up happening is you're melting the glue, the adhesive. So when you melt it, like it starts bubbling up, and then you could just like peel it light as a feather.
So let's go back to John Carerro. So John, rest in peace, John, late great John Carerro. He was the man that brought you around cats like Large Professor, Q-Tip, all those guys.
Well, I wouldn't say brought me around, but they came around because John sold records mainly out of his house, and so there would be a record convention, the most notable one, the Roosevelt Hotel Record Convention. That's when we went around and everybody just congregated in this hotel. And when I say everybody, like anybody who made any type of impact on hip hop, they were all in one building. Like if the powers that be wanted to destroy hip hop, they would just have to bomb the Roosevelt Hotel, because literally everybody was there. Well, at least as far as the East Coast is concerned, Q-Tip, Large Professor, Pete Rock, Busta Rhymes, Prince B of PM Dawn, or the late great Prince B of PM Dawn. Kenny Parker, Eric B, the Beat Miners, the Beat Nuts, like everybody, Prestige, literally everybody was there.
That's dope.
And a then unknown Funk Master Flex, like a lot of people who eventually became staples, who were unknowns back then. They were just like digging like the rest of us or whatever. But John didn't really so much bring me around, but those people came around to him, and I just so happened to be there for a lot of those. For a couple of those occurrences.
It was really just through affiliation. You were just like rubbing shoulders with these guys as they were coming to John.
Yes. And just being completely starstruck, but also knowing my place and not like fanning out like too hard. In my head, I was just like, like asking them all sorts of questions and stuff like that, and what's it like to, and I love this remix that you did. Like I was, but I kept all that on the inside, because I didn't want to mess up business or anything for John, and I didn't want to seem like the annoying kid at all.
Oh, of course, I get that feeling. I get that, man, all the time, man. So we fast forward, Black Stars album comes out. You did Thieves in the Night. Widely considered a classic record, probably one of the best records on the album.
Oh, thanks, man. I greatly disagree. I mean, I've heard that a couple of times before. I disagree, but I'm glad some people think so. I love that album, and High Tech is like one of my favorite producers of all time.
Me too. He's amazing.
Yeah, he's great. But Thieves in the Night. Yeah, that was a trip.
Yeah. So that was your second paycheck. That was like your second. That was the second time you got paid for landing on an album. Is that correct?
Yes, actually. Yep. That's crazy that you know that. Yep.
What was the first one?
The first one was so there's a group called Network Reps, and honestly, I believe the song is actually on iTunes to like now. So it's a song called Dos Collabo, because it was actually like a remix or whatever to Collabo. Dos Collabo Hip Hop's Delight. It's a group called Network Reps. It was, to be honest, I felt the beat was so trash. It was my it was my attempt at trying to make DJ Premier. Oh, like I guess if we were in this day and age, it would be DJ Premier like beat. It was a like beat.
DJ Premier type beat.
Yeah, but it sounds so far from a DJ Premier track. But that's what I was going for. But consequently enough, that was the very first beat I ever made on an MPC 3000.
Wow.
And yeah, like literally, like while I was teaching myself how to use the MPC 3000 without an owner's manual in the dark, which didn't belong to me. It belonged to the studio that I interned at. That was the very first beat that I made, and I saved it to a 3.5 floppy, and the group used it. So a close friend of mine, my man Matt Fingers, he ran. So he was and I didn't know this about him until like much later on, but he was a college radio DJ. Mm-hmm. I always knew him as like, he was the plug before the term the plug was a thing. He just connected a lot of people to each other, both in in New York and across the US to overseas. He was responsible for quite a few checks getting cut. So, to be honest, I forgot how I met him, but I still talk to him to this day. I spoke to him maybe like two days ago or whatever. But so he also had an independent label called Guess Wild, but he brokered this deal, and this was like my first paying gig, which I didn't even have to say that. It's like redundant since you asked the question. Mm-hmm. So the group, I believe they were signed to Nervous Records, and I remember I was supposed to get $900. Like, I was told the fee was $900, and that completely blew my 17 or 18-year-old mind. I was like, what? $900? $900? You gonna pay me $900? No, seriously, it was like, it was crazy for me. I was like, yeah, let's go, let's do it. Between those two times, my skill set on the MPC got a little better, not much better, but it got a little, like the beats that I made in the interim were significantly better than that beat that they chose. So I was kind of pressuring Matt, or I asked Matt Fingers to give them other beats that I've made to swap them out. Cause I was like, yo, that beat is like, I knew that beat was trash by the time I was figuring out how to make beats better. And they were just like, nope, be good with this. I'm like, nah, man, this ain't it. This is not it. But they said they were good with it. And but then also at the time I was getting paid $900, so I wasn't trying to argue. I wasn't trying to talk myself out of getting $900 either. So and back then I didn't really know the value of actually liking something that you're putting out and getting paid for, even though if it took you it probably took me like an hour to make that beat, because again, I was just trying to figure out how to use the 3000. But yeah, so I was just like, okay, fine. Y'all want to pay me $900 for this trash? Go right ahead. But then I got $700. I remember getting $700, but I also didn't understand business at the time, so I didn't understand that Matt had to get paid, whatever, or whomever had to get paid or whatever. So yeah, I just kind of shrugged it off, and I was still happy and bought a lot of polo and a lot of records. I see a sweatshirt, by the way.
Hey,
hats off to you.
Hey, I'm a low head, man. Like when you said you bought a lot of polo and a lot of records, it sounds like my life right now.
Oh yeah. No, still to this
Sound
day,
my
like
life.
Hey, it's low life or no life, man. You know what I mean?
Life, man, all day.
No. So did you make Thieves in the Night on the 3000?
yes, I did. Made it on the 3000. So yeah, by that time, like I may be off with the timeline and stuff, but I say maybe like a year and a half went by, and by that time I believe. Okay, yeah. So I made the very first beat I made on the 3000, which was the very first beat I ever sold. I made that. It had to have been. It had to have been when I was 15 years old. So turning 16. Yeah, it had to have been out.
Wow.
I had to have been 15 years old because I was working or interning at the Music Palace Studio, which is located in West Hempstead, New York.
Okay.
And eventually, I got hired as an assistant engineer over there. But at the time that I discovered the 3000, I was definitely interning. So by the time I started to get really good with making beats, or I was starting to get good with making beats, I had my own 3000, which was given to me by the late Prince B of PM Dawn.
Rest in
And
peace.
I was either 16 or turning 16. So I made Thieves in the Night when I was already like making 5 beats a day for 3 summers,
Yep.
and winters, and springs and autumns. No, I was literally making beat after beat after beat every day from the time that I received from the time one of my sisters helped me drive out to Jersey City, consequently where I live right now, to Prince B's like immaculate, ridiculous Jersey City loft, and he had given it to me, and then we drove back home to Long Island. Shout out to my sister Pamela. Yeah, so the day I had it, I made beats every single day. Like go to wake up, go to school, come back home, do my homework. My parents or my dad was pretty strict, so I couldn't really hang out outside and stuff like that. So I had to do like at least an hour's worth of studying, and stuff like that. And then I was on the beats until I went to sleep. So yeah, and I was making beat after beat after beat after beat. Like that was like the first like 4 years, like 3 or 4 years of my mid-teens. I
mean, it just ends up being a labor of love for you. Like no matter what, like you don't care if you're getting paid. You know what I'm saying? This is what you love doing.
I mean, like to be 100% honest, and I don't know why this wasn't a thought for myself at the time, but I didn't think of getting paid at all. I was just having fun. Like it was like, if I had to equate this to like it's like being a kid and getting a G.I. Joe, a Transformer, or a Barbie, and playing with it every day, and then you would oddly tell yourself, man, one day I'm gonna get paid to play with this G.I. Joe, with this toy. Like that doesn't, like, to me. I mean, well, that actually makes perfect sense now, thanks to YouTube, where kids are making millions of dollars unboxing toys.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but back then, just, I mean, if you take this thought, like, just even 7 years back, it would just seem ridiculous to like get paid for playing with a toy.
Right.
But that was my thought. It's just like I was just having so much fun. I wasn't thinking about like, I'm gonna be a professional music producer one day, or but I did. The thought did cross my mind often, and my motivation was to eventually have my stuff be heard by Pete Rock and Q-Tip, and Large Professor and Diamond D. Those are like my heroes back then and to this day. But I was thinking like, man, one of these days, I'll be able to play a beat for them and, they're going to really like it. And I wasn't thinking like, oh, they're going to want to rap to it or they're going to like, nah, it's like, yo, as long as they like it, I'm good.
Yeah.
So that was my mentality back then. But yeah, so by the time I made Thieves in the Night, I was already like, formulating the formula that I came up with to make beats the way that I make them and that I still use to this day, which is why it's like extremely easy for me to make beats and I make them fairly quickly as well.
Yes, that whole formula took me a long time. It took me up until like maybe a couple years ago. I've been making beats for like 15, 16 years now, and I'm just now getting that down. You know what I'm saying?
We're gonna switch gears a little bit. I know that you've said before that your greatest gift is observation.
Yes.
And I think we can all pick that up just by having this conversation with you. But can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, and I appreciate you putting that the fact that I'm long-winded very politely. I appreciate that.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's all good.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's something that I just realized about myself like earlier or in the middle of last year. That my gift, all up until I had a conversation with a friend, last year, I thought my gift had always been like making music or, being able to produce music the way that I do. But after, somewhat arguing or debating with this with my friend, I came to find out that my gift is actually observation. So I have a friend who I was working on my album out in California at the time in LA, and my friend whom I hadn't seen in a while, she wanted to pay me a visit. So it's all right, cool. So I met her, maybe like a year or two prior. She's always known that, she knows what my occupation is, that I make beats for a living, yada, yada, yada. And she's heard some of my music, I believe, but up until the time she came to hang out, she never witnessed me making music. Like, she's never saw me in the process of making music. So, I was at the studio, she arrived, we're hanging out, and, I was like, all right, well, I got to get some work done. So I made a beat or two with her present, and she was, her mind was blown at my process, and I guess what I used to make what I wound up making, like the samples, and how I manipulate the samples, and or just like the whole process.
So I have a question for you. I'm sure you evolved as a producer over the past few decades, but what we want to know is, how have you improved and changed more so as a music listener?
My record collection has grown to I have about like 12,000 records. So between 14 and 15 years old, I was buying records just because I love listening to. Well, I grew to love listening to old music. But then when I realized hip hop or rap music was sampling from these records that I was starting to collect, then between like late 15 turning 16 to about 35 or whatever, every record I purchased was for the sake of me making a beat, even though 97% of my record collection I've never even made a single beat with. Like I'll go to the record store and I just need to hear one sound from one song that I like on a record, and then I'm like, all right, that record is fire. Eventually, once I started like recording my albums, obviously I had to listen to the records. Like, you know, it wasn't like a CD where I could just stick it in the computer and import the songs and then be on to the next one. I had to sit there and record and flip the record over. So as I'm recording the records, you know, again, I'm 44 right now. So this is like, I think I started this when I was like 35 years old. I'm listening to these records, and there were records that I've owned for, you know, 20 plus years at the time, or, you know, 15 plus, 20 plus years. And I'm like, oh snap, I didn't know Dilla used that record. Man, I had this for 12 years. I didn't know Dilla used that. Oh, another, man, I didn't know Primo caught this sample right here in this record that I had for the past 15 years of my life. Oh, and you know, and that rang true, and it was mostly Dilla samples that I was catching, or stuff that he used that I had been sitting on for like decades. And, you know, not to say like, man, I would have used the same thing, but, you know, who knows? Actually, I probably would have, because that's how Dilla and I met, and that's a whole other story. Yeah, so then from there, I was thinking like, man, you know, now I want to sit with each one of my record, and I will leave no stone unturned. I'm just going to listen to the record. And that's actually what I used to do, you know, when I first started to make beats and start sampling. I would just listen to the record straight through and like, all right, yeah, I'm going to catch this part. You know, but then eventually better at it and more recognition and more money. It was just like, all right, let me just like skip through this record and let me just catch a part. Let me just chop it up and blah, 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 and be done with it. So eventually I started to like really like listen to the records again. And then, you know, going to, you know, spending all day listening to old records kind of brought me back. I was like, oh man, this is actually a really good album. But I'm just thinking, you know, at the time I was thinking like, oh, I just got lucky. I just pulled a really good album, or I just, you know, just so happened to reach for an album, and this album just so happens to be fire all the way through.
As a producer coming up, you never felt like you had to jump in at some point. I think one of the biggest things we all struggle with is like being true to yourself and your sound, and then trying to jump in to get the check. You know,
oh, absolutely not.
Like I mean,
I never did that. And you know, that was I guess the gift and the curse, because I, you know, like my discography may read like, you know, I have a lot of things going on and placements and stuff, but it's not really, I don't like, I've gotten a lot of work, but a lot of the stuff, like the majority of stuff that I've done never even came out for one reason or another. So I never felt you know, I never felt like I had to change my style because the times are seemingly changing. Like I wasn't one of those guys that when the Neptunes were blowing up, I was like, all right, I gotta go get a Triton. Where a lot of people did that, and a lot of people were making Neptune-ish beats at the time or whatever. And I mean, and you know, they were probably getting their checks and stuff. So shout outs to them. But yeah, I never did that because I don't know. I just never followed trends. Like, no, I shouldn't say never. So for me, wearing polo isn't a trend. It's a lifestyle thing for me. Like I started wearing it as a teenager in 10th grade because I liked it and I saw other people wearing it. But I just so happened to like it, you know. So I didn't really feel like it was a trendy thing for me. And then, you know, I went overboard and started studying it, and you know, then till eventually I met Ralph, and Ralph knows who I am. He knows my daughters, and
wow.
Like I have his son's contact, and you know, I know his whole family, and you know, yada yada yada. So yeah, so I never so the only trend that I remember jumping on, and I totally regret it, was the Mitchell and Ness throwback jerseys. I spent my $800 on them damn shirts. Oh my God,
big ass.
Oh my God,
curtain.
Shout out to Just Blaze and Kanye.
Oh man.
Shout out to Just Blaze and Kanye who gassed me into like into buying those.
This West on sale joint, man. 9X.
Yeah, I never switched my style up. I just enhanced my style because the things like I love.
Word.
I love the music that I make. You know, I just try to make it sound as, you know, better than before. So like when these trends come in, like the, you know, the trap music trend is like the 808s and, you know, the keyboards with like the 3 sounds in it and stuff like that, and everything sounds exactly alike, and everyone's using the Fruity Loops trap set, or they're all like getting sounds from, you know, the Lex Luger kit and this kit and that kit, and everyone has access to the same sounds. And it's crazy to me because it's all the 808, it's all emulations of the 808. So no one's actually using a real 808, you know, the Roland TR 808 machine or whatever. So
OG TR 808.
Yeah, so everything sounds exactly the same to me, and you know what? Like I never liked it because of that. I never got into that sound. So I'm like, man, I'm not gonna start making this sound just because it's the wave, or, you know, cats are cashing checks. Like I'm still gonna, like, I'll figure out how to make money off my music somehow. Like there's somebody who's gonna like my stuff, whether I could charge them, you know, my usual asking rate of, you know, 5-figure digits, you know, or 3 digits or lower 3 digits. Like somebody's gonna like it, and I'll be able to like keep the lights on, you know, by doing this. So I'm not gonna change myself. I'm just gonna make my stuff sound as good as possible and stuff that I like, because I never want to have, you know, watch your BITCH's moment again in life.
Word. That's word.
Full circle.
Yeah, that's facts, man. Ain't nothing like being passionate about the music you make, and then somebody like totally goes left field with what you thought the concept would be. You know what I'm saying? Here at the Beat the Block podcast, man, we definitely have a focus on, you know, what it means to be mentally healthy as a producer, as an artist. You know what I'm saying? And especially in this industry, what do you do to take care of your mental health? Make sure you good, make sure your family's straight and stuff like that, man.
Oh man, I just you know, to be honest, I keep my head in the clouds, and you know, I have big aspirations, but with my big aspirations, yeah, I just figure out how to get it done. And you know, like every day, literally every day, I strategize and, you know, figure out, all right, what can I do to make this happen, or to get another step closer to this. And the thing is, like with me, I'll sit. So when people, you know, when they're tweeting or on Instagram and like, yeah, you know, rise and grind, I'm about to get this paper, you know, I'm about to do all this work and do, like, I'm about to move this mountain or try to move this mountain to get this paper, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, man, I ain't trying to do not nearly as much work as you, or, you know, you're doing, or putting as much physical effort into, you know, or put that much thought into trying to do what it is that you're trying to do, like you're trying to achieve. So when people are like, yo, I'm starting at, you know, step A, and then, you know, I'm gonna work my way up to step B and step C, step D, and then eventually I'll get to G, because I'm a G. I'm thinking like, man, I'm looking at getting to like O or P. So I'll start at A like everybody else. So while everyone is like doing what they have to do, the grind, the proverbial grind, and they're working their way up to B and C, I'll sit at A by the time, like, so by the time they get to D or E, you know, I'm still at A's, like figuring things out. But then when I make my move, I'll be right where they are. I'll be at D.
No doubt.
And then, you know, I might get knocked back to C or whatever, and then I just sit again. So now they're at G, and again, their goal at G is not nearly what my goal is, trying to get to O or P. So, you know, and they're content with that, which is fine. You know, not everybody, you know, not everybody likes champagne. Yeah.
Word.
Yeah. You know, like, you know, some people like Snapple. It's all good. You know, so while they're there and they're content and they're still like putting in all the work to stay at G and stuff like that, and you know, I got knocked back to C, so I'm still chilling, and then I make my next move. Now I'm at like L, and they're like, yo, what? And I'm just like, man, there's a plan. It's like, because how'd I get here? Because I wanted to be here. You know,
doubt.
it's yeah.
Taking things
So,
at
yeah.
your own pace, man. I dig that.
Yeah, completely at my own pace. Yeah, I mean, like taking stuff at your own pace relieves a lot of the pressure too and stress.
Absolutely, man. Let's switch gears for a second, man. We like to, on the Beat the Block podcast, get into some of those funny stories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That war chest, the comedic moments and stuff, man. Let's talk about the stay up video, which is one of my favorites. It's my ringtone to this day, man. No gas.
Oh man, appreciate.
You know what I'm saying?
Appreciate that.
Yeah, man. If you don't mind, drop some gems on us, man, about some of the funny things that you've dealt with through this industry.
Oh man. Well, I say this. Kanye and I, we had a ball doing it. I had fun, but Ye had a lot of fun because this was the first time in years at that point where he could go out in public and not get recognized. So we shot that video. That video was completely guerrilla style. Like we didn't get any permits or anything. It wasn't like a whole camera crew. Like Jason Goldwatch came up with the concept of the video, and again, it wasn't like this huge crew and like things were set up. He just held the camera. He's like, all right, so we're gonna put you here. This, like this is what the situation is, and then we improv. Like that whole video we improved. And there's a lot of footage that wasn't used and stuff like that. But we had so much fun, and Ye had that was his day of semi-normalcy. So I remember when we wrapped up, he was like, man, he was dead serious too. He was like, man, yo, we should go to the club, and like this. I was like, all right, let's go. Because he was just like, yo, no one's coming up to me, no one's asking me for this and that and blah blah blah. Like I can actually, he could actually get from point A to point B in one stride instead of getting stopped every step of the way. He didn't need any securities. It's just like his people's around him, just me and him, just chilling. Like we did before he got his deal. Whatever. So, and then I guess I shouldn't say this is a funny story, but a story that behind the scenes thing. So, the woman he was dating at the time, who everybody could do the math on that, like check the years or whatever. So the woman he was dating at the time, his girlfriend, had mistakenly, I guess she wore contacts. And for some reason, she mistakenly put what was it? She thought she was putting I guess the contacts, the lens cleaner or whatever, but it was like glue. Yeah, she put glue in the it's something weird, some weird solution. So word got back to him and you know what? I forgot how the word got back because I don't think he had a phone at the time. But I forget. But word got back to him, and she was getting rushed to the hospital. He's like, yeah, gotta go. And that was that. and that was like shortly after he was like, yo, let's go to the club. And then our makeup had to be retouched and everything. And yeah, and then that outing came to an abrupt end because of that. But yeah, we were like wilding out, and then we had a dance off for oh my god, we had a dance off, and it was the whole thing was filmed, and Jason between this, the director Jason Goldwatch and my man Robert Gilbert, I'm pretty sure he has the footage, the video footage. I call him Jungle Tactics. Yeah, we had we were dancing for 7 minutes straight, battling each other in this motel room. Ye and I, we were dancing to I think a T-Pain song, and then I think a Chris Brown. No, I think it's a T-Pain song. Man, we was killing it. And a little bit of a little bit of the dance off made it to the video, and then a little more of it made it to. So MTV they did a 30-minute special for me, and of course, like, I'm not gonna be so naive, like, oh, this is my, like, you know, they wanted to do a special on 88 Keys. Like, nah, they really wanted Kanye West, and, you know, I just so happened to be able to facilitate that for them. But yeah, they did a special. It was a 30-minute behind the scenes of the video, the making of the video, and it aired on Sucker Free Sundays or something like that. And,
I remember seeing it on Sucker Free Sundays. That's that's where I saw it.
Yeah. So a little bit more of the dance off made there, but man, they definitely didn't catch the best parts of it or whatever. And, you know, because of licensing issue, they had to like switch the music out or whatever. So like, it looks like we dancing off beat, but nah, we were killing it. Yeah, and I.
Yeah, I'd love to be a fly on the wall with that one, man. For real. That's hilarious.
Yeah, and actually, now that I remember, like, you know, that album and that, like, the video and the album, it spawned a few ideas that were pitched to us, or I guess to us, but you know, nothing ever panned out. Like, we were pitched a TV show as Rufus and Clifford, like those characters and stuff like that.
Man, that would have been gold.
Yeah, we were pitched that, and then HBO, like, I guess through Ye, were like, they heard, like, you know, I guess the powers that be, the execs or whatever, they heard my album, and, you know, I guess they loved it, and they thought to make it like a mini series or something like that. And then, you know, like some fans, a couple of fans approached me, and they wrote like screenplays for a Broadway, off-Broadway play. You know, other than, you know, people like, oh yeah, it sounds cool with like some cool features and stuff like that. I was like, nah, like, it really touched people and affected them. You know, carried a lot of people through high school. Like The Weeknd, when I met him, he was like, man. When I met The Weeknd, when he found out who I was, he like bowed down to me and stuff. He's like, man, like, your album was like my favorite album in high school. I was like, oh, that's fresh. The Weeknd.
Yo, Def album Adam is still one of my favorites to this day, man. Like, superb work on that joint, man. Like, it's still in heavy rotation. Like, I'm very similar in that mode where, you know, I don't really have to listen to a whole lot of new stuff, man. You know, I try to keep my ear to the streets, man, but, yo, I'm mostly in my records, man, and I'm mostly, you know, just stuck in the 90s, I guess, whatever. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
so you have this Warner deal on the table. What's next for you?
What's next is me just trying to finish this album. I've been met with several roadblocks. You know, just Murphy's Law, you know, since signing the deal. But I'm almost there. You know, a lot of this stuff is actually me, you know, waiting around for other people. The majority of my work is pretty much done. You know, I just have to put the glue together to glue the album together. It's another conceptual narrative album, and it's actually going to be the part 2 to the Death of Adam.
So where can where can the people find you online? Your socials, your BeatStars page, if you have one.
Oh yes, I do. Everything is at Eighty-Ocho. At Eighty-Ocho, EIGHTYOCHO. I think my YouTube might be different because somebody has Eighty-Ocho and they it's like a scientist or whatever, they wouldn't give it up. Like, come on, man. Just let me have that. Just let me have that.
Shit, I hate that shit, man. Like, man, nobody likes you, man. Let me get that up off you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know,
yeah, I'm dealing with the same problem on Twitch, man.
You and all 4 of your subscribers. But yeah, for the most part, like on everything else is Eighty-Ocho. Yeah, that's how you can find me. Or, you know, just type in 88 keys in your Googles, and I'm sure I'll pop up.
For sure.
That's word, man. Well, we appreciate you for coming on with us today, man. Definitely a pleasure. Drop hella gems on us, man. Fans gonna be very excited for this one, man. So, hey, I'm all ears. I can't wait for you to finish that project up, man.
Oh yeah, thanks. And the single came out. The first single came out like June, like late June. It's called "That's Life," featuring my friend, the late great Mac Miller and Sia.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes.
sir.
So
I'm
yeah,
here.
Definitely.
I'm sorry.
I said we're definitely familiar
Oh, thank you.
with the
Yeah,
record.
yeah. Oh, thank you.
No
Yeah,
doubt.
so,
With that being said, we got to get up out of here. It's a rainy day in Chicago, but who the fuck cares, man? Hey, that's how we do it. Beat the Block Podcast. I'm Il Brown.
I'm Trox.
And it's your girl Candy.
And
we
I'm
will see
88
you on the-
Keys.
yes, sir. And shout out to our producer John too, man. We gonna
Word
get
up.
up out of here. We catch y'all mark ass busters on the next episode. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.